My name is Martha. I am 78 years old. I've lived in this small Georgia town all my life, raised 3 children here, and buried my husband in the cemetery just 2 miles down the road. Folks around here call me the backbone of Willow Creek, always volunteering at church functions, organizing the community garden, baking for every fundraiser. But what happened last month on my birthday showed me how little we sometimes know the people we've given everything to. I'd been looking forward to my birthday dinner for weeks. Not because I care much about turning another year older, Lord knows I've had enough birthdays, but because it would bring my scattered family back to my table. My son James driving up from Florida, my eldest Diane flying in from Chicago, and my youngest Eliza, who lives just across town, but might as well be across the country for how often I see her and my granddaughter Lily. The dining room table was set with my good china, the set Walter and I received as a wedding gift 56 years ago. I'd spent all day in the kitchen, my arthritic hands working through the pain to prepare everyone's favorites. Pot roast with those little red potatoes Diane loves, James's favorite cornbread, and a chocolate cake with buttercream frosting for Lily. Before I dive in, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you enjoy stories like this, please like and subscribe. It helps me keep sharing more. When they arrived, something felt off. Eliza barely looked at me when she walked through the door, Lily trailing behind her, eyes glued to her phone. My granddaughter had changed so much in the months since I'd last seen her. Now 15, with dark purple streaks in her hair and a small silver ring in her nose that caught the light when she finally glanced up. "Happy birthday, Grandma," she mumbled, the words falling flat between us. Dinner was strained. James talked too loudly about his new boat. Diane kept checking her watch, and Eliza picked at her food, exchanging glances with Lily I couldn't decipher. I tried to fill the silences with questions about their lives, but their answers were short, clipped things that died in the air between us. "Time for cake," I announced after clearing the dinner plates, trying to inject some enthusiasm into the room. I brought out my cake, 78 candles crowded together like a small forest fire waiting to happen. The sight of it used to make Lily laugh when she was younger. "Mom, that's too many candles," Eliza said, her voice tight. "The smoke alarm will go off." "Nonsense," I replied, setting the cake in the center of the table. "It's tradition." I handed the box of matches to Lily. Ever since she was 5, lighting my birthday candles had been her special job. She'd always taken such pride in it, her small face serious with concentration as she struck each match. Lily looked at the matchbox, then at her mother. Something passed between them, a current of understanding that excluded me entirely. "I don't want to," Lily said, pushing the matches away. Her voice was cold, distant. "It's stupid anyway." The room went silent. I felt the sting of her words like a physical blow. "Lily," James started, but Eliza cut him off. "It's fine," she said. "Mum, we need to talk about something." My heart began to pound against my ribs. The cake sat between us, its candles unlit, accusatory. "What's going on?" I asked, looking from face to face. Diane wouldn't meet my eyes. James studied his hands. Only Eliza looked directly at me. Her expression hardened into something I didn't recognize. "We found the letters," she said. 3 simple words. But they changed everything. "What letters?" I asked, though a cold dread was already spreading through me. After all these years, after all I'd done to protect them, to keep the past buried where it belonged. Eliza reached into her purse and pulled out a bundle tied with faded blue ribbon. I recognized it immediately. The careful knot, the yellowed edges of the paper. Letters I'd hidden in the attic decades ago, in a trunk I thought no one would ever open. "Dad wasn't who you said he was he?" Eliza's voice trembled slightly, but her eyes remained hard. "And neither are you." Lily's refusal to light the candles suddenly made perfect sense. She wasn't just being a difficult teenager. She was making a statement. She was refusing to celebrate the life of a woman she no longer knew. What would you have done if your daughter confronted you like this, with evidence of a past you'd spent a lifetime trying to forget? I looked at the unlit candles, at the faces of my children and my granddaughter, all waiting for an explanation I wasn't sure I could give. The truth was far more complicated and far more dangerous than they could possibly understand. "Where did you find those?" I finally managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. "Does it matter?" Eliza replied. "What matters is what's in them, and what you've been hiding from us our entire lives." But they had no idea what they'd stumbled upon, no idea what lighting those candles would have revealed, or what I'd planned for this very moment, should it ever come. The letters trembled in Eliza's hand. I could see the top one, the familiar handwriting that had once meant everything to me. Raymond. Even thinking his name after all these years sent a chill through me. "You should put those away," I said quietly, my eyes fixed on the bundle. The dining room suddenly felt too small, the air too thick. Through the window, I could see the old oak tree in my backyard swaying in the evening breeze, its shadows dancing across the lawn like restless spirits. "Put them away," Diane finally spoke, her voice rising. "Mum, these letters say Dad wasn't our father, that some man named Raymond is. Were you having an affair?" The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I could almost taste the bitterness of it. "It wasn't an affair," I said, each word measured carefully, "and Walter was your father in every way that matters." James pushed back from the table, the legs of his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. The sound cut through me like a knife. "So it's true," he demanded. "Everything we thought we knew about our family is a lie." I looked at my son, Walter's spitting image with those same deep-set eyes and strong jaw. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Sit down," I said, "all of you. If you want the truth, I'll give it to you. But not like this, not with accusations." For those just joining my story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop a comment below, and if this resonates with you, please subscribe for more family stories that might surprise you. Reluctantly, they settled back into their chairs. Only Lily remained standing, her back pressed against the wall, watching me with eyes that reminded me so much of my own mother's. Sharp, missing nothing. "Raymond Blackwell was a man I knew before I met your father," I began, my fingers absently tracing the pattern on the tablecloth. "We grew up together in this town. His family owned the hardware store on Main Street." "The one that burned down in the 60s, James asked. I nodded, memories flooding back, the smell of sawdust and metal, the bell above the door that announced each customer, Raymond's laugh echoing among the shelves. "We were going to get married," I continued, "but things changed." "Changed how?" Eliza pressed, still clutching the letters. I closed my eyes briefly, remembering. The summer heat, the argument, the decision I made that altered everything. "Raymond wasn't who I thought he was," I said carefully. "He had ideas, dangerous ideas, about people who didn't look like him." Understanding dawned on Diane's face first. "He was a racist." "It was the 1950s in rural Georgia," I said. "Many people were, but Raymond was different. He was involved with people who did terrible things." The room fell silent as my words sank in. Outside, a car drove past, its headlights briefly illuminating our faces before plunging us back into the soft glow of the dining room light. "I found out he was part of a group that burned down the black church on the east side of town," I continued, my voice dropping to almost a whisper. 3 people died in that fire, including a child. Lily pushed herself away from the wall, suddenly interested. "You're saying our grandfather was a murderer?" "I'm saying Raymond was involved with murderers," I corrected. "When I confronted him, he didn't deny it. He said it was necessary. That's when I knew I had to leave him." But these letters, Eliza said, shaking the bundle, they're dated after that fire. Years after. You were still writing to him. I reached for my water glass, my throat suddenly parched. It's complicated. Uncomplicate it, James demanded. I set the glass down carefully. I left Raymond and moved to Atlanta. That's where I met Walter. He was kind, decent, everything Raymond wasn't. We fell in love, got married. I thought that chapter of my life was closed. But, Diane prompted. But Raymond found me, I said. He started writing letters, threatening to come to Atlanta, to tell Walter everything. I wrote back, begging him to leave us alone. That doesn't explain why these letters say he's our father, Eliza said, her voice hard. I looked at each of their faces, my children, my granddaughter, the family I'd protected for decades. Because he is, I finally admitted. Biologically, I was already pregnant when I left him, with twins. Diane and James exchanged shocked glances. They'd always known they were twins, of course, but not this. But Eliza, James started. Walter is Eliza's biological father, I confirmed. By the time she was born, Raymond was no longer a threat. What happened to him? Lily asked, moving closer to the table. Drawn in despite herself. I hesitated. This was the part of the story I'd never planned to tell, the part that could change how they saw me forever. Raymond came to Atlanta, I said slowly. He was drunk, angry. He threatened to take you two away. I nodded toward Diane and James. Said no children of his would be raised by another man. My hands were shaking now. I clasped them together to steady them. Walter confronted him. There was a fight. Raymond fell and hit his head on the corner of our coffee table. The silence that followed was absolute. I could hear the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway, counting out the seconds of this new reality. You killed him, Lily whispered, her eyes wide. No, I said firmly. Walter didn't mean for him to fall. It was an accident, but Raymond didn't get up. So what did you do? Eliza asked, her voice barely audible. I looked at the unlit birthday cake between us, the wax beginning to drip down the sides of the candles. We buried him, I said simply, in the foundation of the house we were building. This house, the revelation landed like a physical blow. Diane gasped. James stood up so quickly his chair toppled backward. He's here, he demanded, his voice rising. Under this house. All these years? I nodded slowly. It was the only way to protect our family. Our family, Eliza repeated, her voice shaking with anger. You built our family on a murder. On protection, I corrected. On love. Walter loved you all as his own. He gave up everything to keep you safe. By becoming a killer? Diane asked, tears streaming down her face. By protecting the woman he loved, I said. And her children. Lily had gone pale, her eyes darting to the floor beneath her feet, as if she could see through the hardwood to what lay beneath. That's why you never let anyone renovate the basement, she said slowly. Why you freaked out when Dad wanted to put in that new furnace last year. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. We need to go to the police, James said, pulling out his phone. After 60 years? I asked quietly. To report an accident, to destroy our family name, to put me, your mother, in prison for the few years I have left. His finger hovered over the screen. Do you think I was too forgiving? I asked, looking at each of them. For staying with Walter after what happened, for building a life on such a foundation. No one answered. The candles on my cake had begun to bend from their own weight, wax pooling on the chocolate frosting. There's something else you should know, I said, my voice steady now. Something about those letters you haven't read yet, something about why I really left Raymond and why he came looking for us. But before I could continue, we all froze at the sound of a car pulling into the driveway, headlights sweeping across the dining room windows. Are you expecting someone else? Diane asked. I wasn't. And that's what terrified me, because only one other person in the world knew what was buried beneath this house. And I thought he had died years ago. Headlights cut through the curtains, painting strips of harsh light across our frozen faces. I gripped the edge of the table, my knuckles turning white. No one was supposed to know, no one except Walter and me, and Walter had been gone for 12 years. Who is that? Eliza whispered, her anger momentarily replaced by concern. I rose slowly from my chair, my old joints protesting. Stay here, I said, moving toward the window. The floorboards creaked beneath my feet, the same floorboards that had kept our secret for decades. Through the gap in the curtains, I saw a black sedan I didn't recognize. The driver's door opened, and a tall figure emerged, silhouetted against the car's headlights. Something about the way he moved, deliberate, unhurried, sent a wave of recognition through me. Mom? James was beside me now, peering over my shoulder. Who is it? The man turned toward the house, his face catching the porch light. I felt the blood drain from my face. It can't be, I whispered. The doorbell rang, its cheerful chime incongruous with the dread filling the room. I'll get it, Diane said, moving toward the hallway. No. My voice came out sharper than I intended. They all stared at me. I'll answer it. This is my past coming to call. If you're still with me on this journey, I'd appreciate a like and comment. Your support means everything as I share the darkest chapter of my life. I smoothed my dress, tucked a strand of grey hair behind my ear, small, futile gestures against the tide of history washing up on my doorstep. The walk to the front door felt endless, each step carrying the weight of 60 years of secrets. When I opened the door, the man standing on my porch looked exactly as I'd feared. Tall and lean, with Raymond's eyes and jawline, but Walter's gentle mouth. The impossible combination of two men who had shaped my life. Hello, Martha, he said, his voice deep and smooth like aged bourbon. It's been a long time. Michael, I breathed. Not a question, but a recognition. A reckoning. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. May I come in? I believe we have some family business to discuss. Behind me, I could feel my children and granddaughter gathering in the hallway, their confusion a tangible presence. Mom, Eliza called. Who is this? I stepped back, allowing Michael to enter. The scent of his cologne, sandalwood and something sharper, filled the narrow entryway. He removed his hat, revealing silver hair cut close to his scalp. This, I said, my voice steadier than I felt, is Michael Blackwell. Raymond's younger brother. Michael's gaze swept over my family, assessing each face with cool detachment. I see the resemblance, he said, especially in you two. He nodded toward James and Diane. What are you doing here? I asked, leading him into the dining room where the evidence of our interrupted celebration remained. The unlit cake, the scattered letters. Michael's eyes fixed on the bundle in Eliza's hands. Ah, he said softly. So that's how it happened. I wondered what would finally bring the truth to light. He settled into a chair at my table without being invited, as comfortable as if he'd been there 100 times before. Perhaps in his mind, he had been. You all look confused, he said to my family. I'm not surprised. Your mother has always been good at keeping secrets. How did you find us? I asked, remaining standing. I needed whatever small advantage height could give me. Michael reached inside his jacket and pulled out a worn leather wallet. From it, he extracted a yellowed newspaper clipping. Walter's obituary, he said, sliding it across the table. 12 years ago, it mentioned his loving wife Martha and listed this address. I've known where you were for 12 years, Martha. The implication hung in the air between us. He'd been waiting, biding his time. Why now? I asked, though I feared I already knew the answer. Michael glanced at the letters, then back at me. Because it's time for the truth, all of it. We already know about Raymond, James said, his voice hard. We know what happened to him. Michael's eyebrow arched. Do you? Did she tell you why Raymond came looking for her that night? Did she tell you what was in those letters besides the fact that he fathered you two? I felt the room tilt slightly. Michael, please. Did she tell you about the money? He continued, his eyes never leaving mine. About how Raymond and I robbed the First National Bank of Atlanta 2 days before he died. About how your mother was supposed to be our getaway driver, but got cold feet. The silence that followed was deafening. I could feel my children's eyes on me, their shock and disbelief radiating like heat. That's not true, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. Michael laughed, a harsh sound that scraped against my nerves. Isn't it? Raymond trusted you with everything, Martha, including the location of the money after the job went south. $200,000 in 1960s cash. A fortune. Mom. Diane's voice was small, childlike. Is this true? I closed my eyes briefly, feeling the weight of decades of deception pressing down on me. When I opened them, I looked directly at Michael. Raymond was planning the robbery, I admitted. That's why I left him. I wanted no part of it. But you knew about it, Michael pressed. You knew where he hid the money after. That's what he came to Atlanta to find out, wasn't it? Not just to see his children, but to get the location of the cash from you. The memory surfaced. Raymond, drunk and desperate, his hands around my throat. Tell me where it is, Martha. Tell me, or I swear to God I'll take the kids and you'll never see them again. Yes, I whispered. And after Walter killed him, Michael continued relentlessly, you found the money, didn't you? I said nothing, but my silence was answer enough. This house, Michael said, looking around at the modest but well-maintained home I'd raised my family in. Your children's education, the comfortable retirement, all paid for with stolen money. Stop it, Eliza said suddenly, her voice cracking. Just stop it. Haven't you done enough? Michael turned to her, his expression softening slightly. I'm not here to hurt anyone, young lady. I'm here for what's rightfully mine. Half of that money belonged to me. After 60 years, James scoffed, you think you can just walk in here and... I think, Michael interrupted, that your mother has been living with this secret long enough, and I think she's tired. He looked at me, and for a moment, I saw something like compassion in his eyes. Aren't you tired, Martha? I was. Bone-deep, soul-weary tired. There's no money left, I said quietly. It's been gone for years. Michael studied me, searching for the lie. I don't believe you. It's true, I insisted. We used it to build this house, yes, to send the kids to college. But the rest? Walter lost it. Bad investments in the 80s. There's nothing left to find. Then you won't mind if I look around, Michael said, rising from his chair. Starting with the basement. The basement, where the concrete had been poured over Raymond's body. Where Walter had hidden the remaining cash in a wall safe behind the old furnace. A safe I'd emptied years ago after his death. No, I said firmly. You're not welcome here, Michael. I want you to leave. He smiled, but it was cold, calculating. Or what? You'll call the police? Tell them about the body under your house? About the stolen money? We were at an impasse. And he knew it. I had protected my family for 60 years, built a life on a foundation of secrets and lies. And now it was all crumbling around me. Grandma, Lily's voice cut through the tension. She had been so quiet I'd almost forgotten she was there. What's in the basement? Before I could answer, a loud crash came from the kitchen, the sound of breaking glass. We all jumped, turning toward the noise. What was that? Diane gasped. Michael's expression changed, alarm replacing his smug confidence. Are you expecting someone else? I wasn't, and that's when I realized Michael hadn't come alone. "Get away from the windows," I said urgently, moving toward my granddaughter. "Now." But it was too late. A figure appeared in the dining room doorway, silhouetted against the kitchen light. A figure holding something long and metallic that gleamed dully in the dim light. "Hello, Martha," a woman's voice said. "Michael didn't tell you he got married, did he? I'm Caroline, and I'm not as patient as my husband about finding what's ours." The gun in her hand was pointed directly at my chest. "But tell me, should I have seen this coming? The past never stays buried, does it?" The gun trembled slightly in Caroline's hand, not from fear, I realized, but from excitement. Her eyes were fever bright, darting between my face and the unlit birthday cake on the table. She was younger than Michael by at least 20 years, with sharp features and hair dyed an unnatural shade of red. "Everyone stay calm," Michael said, his voice tight. "This wasn't the plan, Caroline." She laughed, a high, brittle sound that set my teeth on edge. "Plans change, honey. 60 years of waiting is long enough." My family stood frozen. Diane pressed against the wall, James half risen from his chair, Eliza with one arm protectively around Lily. I could see the pulse hammering in my granddaughter's throat, her eyes wide with terror. "There's no need for that," I said, nodding toward the gun. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "No one here is going to cause trouble." Caroline's smile widened. "Smart lady. Now, here's what's going to happen. Michael and I are going to search this house from top to bottom, and you're all going to sit right here and not move a muscle." "Mom," James whispered, "we need to call the police." "And tell them what?" Michael countered. "About the body in the basement, about the stolen money. Your mother would spend her remaining years in prison." I felt the weight of their stares, my children, my granddaughter, all looking to me for guidance, for protection, just as they had their entire lives. And I had always delivered, hadn't I? Always found a way to keep them safe, to preserve the life we'd built. For those following my story, I know this is getting intense. If you're finding value in hearing about the lengths a mother will go to protect her family, please consider subscribing. Your support means everything. "The money's gone," I repeated, meeting Caroline's gaze directly. "You're wasting your time." She stepped closer, the gun now inches from my chest. I could smell her perfume, something cheap and cloying that caught in my throat. "Maybe," she said, "but there's only one way to find out." She turned to Michael. "Take the old lady to the basement. I'll keep an eye on the rest of them." Michael hesitated, looking between his wife and me. I saw something flicker in his eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or memory. He had known me once, long ago, when we were both young, and Raymond was still alive, before everything changed. "Now, Michael," Caroline snapped. He moved toward me, taking my arm. His grip was firm but not painful. "Let's go, Martha." As he led me toward the hallway, I glanced back at my family. "It's going to be all right," I told them, trying to infuse my voice with a confidence I didn't feel. "Just do as she says." The basement door was at the end of the hallway, a heavy oak slab that had always remained locked. I fumbled with the key that hung on a chain around my neck, had worn it there for 60 years, even in the shower, even to bed. "You kept the key close," Michael observed quietly. "Wouldn't you?" I replied, fitting it into the lock. The door swung open with a creak, revealing the narrow wooden stairs descending into darkness. I hadn't been down there in years, not since Walter died and I'd emptied the safe. Not since I'd stood over the concrete slab where Raymond lay and made my final peace with the past. Michael reached past me to flip the light switch. A single bare bulb illuminated the space, the washer and dryer against one wall, boxes of Christmas decorations and old photo albums stacked neatly in the corners, the ancient furnace hulking in the center, like a metal beast. "After you," Michael said. I gripped the railing and made my way down slowly, my knees protesting each step. The air was cool and damp, with the faint musty smell that basements always have, no matter how well maintained. "Where is he?" Michael asked when we reached the bottom. I pointed to the far corner, where the concrete was a slightly different shade than the rest of the floor. There, Walter dug the hole himself, poured the concrete afterward. Michael moved toward it, kneeling to run his hand over the surface. "My brother," he murmured, "all these years." "He wasn't a good man, Michael," I said softly. "You know that better than anyone." He looked up at me, his expression unreadable. "And the money?" I pointed to the furnace. "Behind there, a wall safe. But like I told you, it's empty now." Michael rose and moved to the furnace, running his hands along the wall behind it. It didn't take him long to find the seam, the slight indentation that indicated the safe's door. "Combination?" he asked. I hesitated. Giving him the combination would prove the safe was empty, but it would also confirm that I'd had the money all these years, that everything he'd accused me of was true. 8 right, 24 left, 16 right, I finally said. His fingers worked the dial, and I heard the faint click as the mechanism released. The safe door swung open. Michael stared into the empty interior for a long moment. "You were telling the truth," he said, his voice hollow. "I told you. It's gone." He turned to face me, and I was surprised to see not anger but a deep weariness in his eyes. 60 years, Martha. I've been chasing this ghost for 60 years. "I'm sorry," I said and meant it. "For all of it. For Raymond. For the money." "But not for the life you built on it," he observed. I straightened my shoulders. "No, not for my children. Never for them." A floorboard creaked overhead, and we both looked up. I thought of Caroline upstairs with her gun, with my family, my vulnerable, innocent family, who had done nothing to deserve any of this. "Your wife is dangerous," I said quietly. Michael's jaw tightened. "Caroline has expectations about what this would mean for us. And now that you know the money's gone?" He ran a hand over his face. "I don't know." I took a step closer to him. "Michael, please. My family has nothing to do with this. This is between you and me and Raymond and Walter. All of them are gone now except us." "What are you asking me to do, Martha?" I met his gaze steadily. "Help me protect them, like you couldn't protect Raymond." It was a calculated risk, mentioning his brother that way. Michael had always lived in Raymond's shadow, had followed him into crime out of loyalty rather than inclination. I was counting on that same loyalty now, redirected, repurposed. Something shifted in his expression. "What do you have in mind?" Before I could answer, Caroline's voice called down the stairs. "What's taking so long? Did you find it?" "Nothing yet," Michael called back. "Still looking." "Well, hurry up," she snapped. "These people are getting on my nerves." Michael lowered his voice. "She won't leave without something, Martha. She's not built that way." I nodded slowly, an idea forming. "Then we'll give her something." I moved to the far corner of the basement, to a stack of plastic storage bins labeled Christmas. From the bottom bin, I pulled out a small wooden box, Walter's old cigar box, where he'd kept mementos from our life together. "What's that?" Michael asked. I opened the lid. Inside lay a small velvet pouch, which I emptied into my palm. 3 diamonds glittered in the dim light, not large but of good quality, my mother's, passed down to me, which I'd never had set into jewelry. "Will this satisfy her?" I asked. Michael stared at the stones. "Where did you get those?" "They're family heirlooms," I said. "Nothing to do with the robbery, but she doesn't need to know that." He hesitated, then nodded. "It might work, but Martha..." "I know," I said. "She's still dangerous, so we need to be careful how we play this." I returned the diamonds to the pouch and handed it to him. "Tell her you found these hidden in the safe. That I admitted there's more, but it's not here. It's buried somewhere else. Somewhere only I know. Understanding dawned in his eyes. A reason to leave without harming anyone. A promise of more to come. Exactly. And is there more? He asked. I held his gaze. What do you think? Before he could answer, the basement door banged open. I'm coming down, Caroline called. You two are taking too damn long. Her footsteps on the stairs were quick and light. When she reached the bottom, her eyes darted between us, the gun still clutched in her hand. Well? She demanded. Michael held up the velvet pouch. Found these hidden in a compartment behind the safe. Martha says there's more, but not here. Caroline's eyes narrowed. What do you mean, not here? I mean, I said carefully, that Walter didn't keep all the money in one place. He was smarter than that. Where's the rest? She asked, taking a step toward me. Buried, I replied, on a piece of property we owned outside of town. I can take you there. Caroline looked at Michael, suspicion written across her features. Is she lying? The safe was empty except for these, he said, shaking the pouch so she could hear the diamonds inside. And it makes sense they wouldn't keep everything here, under the same roof as their children. She considered this, her finger tapping against the gun's trigger guard. How much more? Enough, I said. More than what's in that pouch. Caroline's eyes gleamed with greed. Show me. Not tonight, I said firmly. It's dark and the location is remote. We'd need daylight to find it. Tomorrow then, she said. First thing in the morning. I nodded slowly. Tomorrow, but you need to leave my family out of this. This is between us. Caroline laughed. You're not in a position to make demands, old woman. I'm the only one who knows where the rest is hidden, I reminded her. Harm my family, and you'll never find it. A tense silence stretched between us. Upstairs, I could hear movement, my children's voices, muffled but audible. They were worried, wondering what was happening down here. Finally, Caroline lowered the gun slightly. Fine. Tomorrow morning. But we're taking the girl with us, your granddaughter. Insurance. No, I said immediately. Absolutely not. It's not negotiable, Caroline snapped. Either she comes as insurance, or we take what we have and end this right now. She raised the gun again, pointing it directly at my heart. I looked at Michael, silently pleading. He met my gaze and something passed between us. An understanding, perhaps, or a plan. The girl comes, he said, but she won't be harmed. You have my word, Martha. I closed my eyes briefly, weighing impossible options. When I opened them, I had made my decision. All right, I said, but I need to tell her myself. Prepare her. Caroline smiled, victorious. Let's go upstairs then, share the good news with the family. As we climbed the stairs, Michael behind me and Caroline bringing up the rear, I felt a strange calm settle over me. Tomorrow would bring what it would bring. But tonight was still my birthday. And I had made preparations of my own long before any of this began. The candles on my cake remained unlit. But that, I realized now, was a blessing. Because what I'd hidden inside them was never meant to burn. Do you think I was wrong to involve Lily? Sometimes protection requires sacrifice. But whose? We emerged from the basement like survivors from a storm cellar, blinking in the light, changed by what had transpired below. My family sat exactly as we'd left them, frozen in a tableau of fear. Only Lily moved, her eyes finding mine immediately, questioning. Everything's fine, I said, my voice steadied despite the gun at my back. We've come to an arrangement. Caroline pushed past me, waving the gun casually, as if it were nothing more dangerous than a TV remote. Your grandmother has been keeping secrets, she announced to the room. Big ones. But she's going to make things right, aren't you, Martha? I nodded slowly, moving toward the table where my birthday cake still sat, its 78 unlit candles standing like silent sentinels. I'd planned this evening so carefully. The dinner, the cake, the revelation I'd intended to make on my own terms. Now everything had spiraled beyond my control. Or had it? "Lily," I said softly, "I need you to come with me tomorrow morning, to help me show these people something important." My granddaughter's eyes widened. "Grandma, no!" "It's going to be all right," I assured her, reaching across the table to take her hand. Her fingers were cold in mine. "I promise." Eliza stood up so quickly her chair toppled backward. "You're not taking my daughter anywhere," she hissed, glaring at Caroline. "Mum," I said, squeezing Lily's hand before releasing it. "Please sit down. This isn't helping." "Listen to your mother," Caroline said, the gun now pointed casually in Eliza's direction. "Family should stick together, right? Isn't that what you've always taught them, Martha? I've been sharing my story with you all, and if you've made it this far, I'd be grateful if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. Your support helps me continue sharing these difficult truths." "What exactly is happening here?" James demanded, looking between Caroline and Michael. "What arrangement?" "Your mother is going to show us where the rest of the money is hidden," Michael explained, his voice calm and reasonable. "Tomorrow morning, Lily will accompany us as insurance." "This is insane," Diane said, her voice breaking. "Mom, you can't seriously be considering this." I moved around the table until I stood beside my birthday cake. The wax had hardened on the candles, frozen teardrops that would never fall. I ran my finger lightly over one, feeling its texture. "I don't have a choice," I said quietly, "but I need you all to trust me. Can you do that? After everything you've learned tonight, can you still trust me?" They stared at me, my children, my granddaughter, their faces a mixture of fear, confusion, and something else. Something that looked like the beginning of understanding. "I trust you, Grandma," Lily said suddenly, her voice small but determined. Eliza shook her head. "Lily, you don't understand what's happening." "I do," my granddaughter insisted, "better than you think." Our eyes met across the table, and in that moment, I saw something in Lily that I recognized, a strength, a resilience that mirrored my own. She was more like me than any of my children had ever been. Perhaps that's why we'd always shared a special bond. "It's settled then," Caroline said, sounding pleased. "We'll stay here tonight, all cozy, like one big happy family. And in the morning, Grandma and the kid will take us treasure hunting." "You can use the guest room," I said, my voice neutral. "Second door on the right upstairs." Michael nodded. "Thank you, Martha." "Don't thank me," I replied. "This isn't hospitality." Caroline laughed, that same brittle sound that set my teeth on edge. "No, it's survival, something you're apparently very good at." She gestured with the gun toward the hallway. "Lead the way to our accommodations, would you?" As Michael and Caroline followed me upstairs, I heard Eliza's voice, low and urgent, speaking to Lily. I couldn't make out the words, but I knew she was trying to talk sense into her daughter, trying to protect her, just as I had protected them all these years. But some things can't be protected against. Some reckonings must simply be faced. I showed them to the guest room, the room where Walter and I had slept for 44 years, until his death moved me to the smaller bedroom down the hall. I'd redecorated it since then, removed all traces of him, but I could still feel his presence there sometimes, late at night when the house was quiet. "We'll need to lock your family in for the night," Caroline said, glancing around the room with distaste. "Can't have anyone calling the police or trying to be a hero." "The bedrooms all have locks on the outside," I said. "From when the children were small. The keys are in my jewelry box." Caroline smiled. "How convenient." "I'll get them," I said, moving toward my bedroom. "I'll come with you," she replied, following close behind. In my bedroom, I opened the small wooden jewelry box on my dresser. The keys lay nestled among my modest collection of earrings and necklaces, small brass keys that I'd kept all these years, though I'd never imagined using them like this. "Here," I said, handing them to Caroline. 3 keys. 1 for each bedroom. She pocketed them, then noticed a framed photograph on my nightstand. Walter and me on our 40th anniversary, his arm around my shoulders, both of us smiling into the camera. Was it worth it? She asked suddenly. Living with a killer? Building your life on blood money? I looked at the photograph, at the man who had loved me enough to kill for me, to bury a body and carry that weight for the rest of his life. He was a good man, I said simply. Better than most. Caroline snorted. A good man who killed someone and buried him under his house. We all have darkness in us, I replied. The measure of a person is what they do with it, what they protect with it. She studied me for a moment, her head tilted to one side. You're not what I expected, Martha Blackwell. It's Martha Johnson, I corrected. I never took Raymond's name. Smart, she said. Easier to disappear that way. We returned downstairs to find Michael standing guard over my family, who remained seated around the dining table. The birthday cake sat untouched between them, a reminder of how this evening should have gone. Time for bed, Caroline announced cheerfully. Big day tomorrow. One by one, my children were escorted to their old bedrooms, James and Diane to the rooms they'd grown up in, Eliza and Lily to share the third. I heard the keys turn in the locks, the sound echoing through the house like a final judgment. What about her? Michael asked, nodding toward me. Caroline considered. She can sleep on the couch, where we can keep an eye on her. I nodded, moving toward the living room. I'll need a blanket from the hall closet. I'll get it, Michael said, following me. At the closet, as I reached for a blanket on the top shelf, Michael leaned close. I meant what I said, he whispered. The girl won't be harmed. I turned to face him. I'm holding you to that, Michael. Whatever happens tomorrow, Lily stays safe. He nodded, his expression solemn. You have my word. Back in the living room, I settled onto the couch, the blanket pulled up to my chin despite the warmth of the September night. Caroline took the armchair across from me, the gun resting in her lap. Michael stretched out on the floor, using a cushion as a pillow. Get some sleep, Caroline told me. You'll need your strength tomorrow. I closed my eyes, but sleep was the furthest thing from my mind. Instead, I listened to the sounds of my house at night, the tick of the grandfather clock in the hall, the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, the occasional creak of settling wood. Sounds that had comforted me for 60 years. Sometime in the night, I heard soft footsteps on the stairs. Opening my eyes a slit, I saw Lily standing in the doorway, her silhouette unmistakable in the darkness. Go back to bed, Caroline hissed, half rising from her chair. I need to talk to my grandmother, Lily said, her voice surprisingly steady. Alone. Caroline laughed softly. Not happening, kid. It's about tomorrow, Lily insisted, about where we're going. I know something she needs to hear. I sat up slowly. It's all right, I said to Caroline. Let her speak to me. Caroline hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. Right here where I can see you. Lily crossed to the couch and sat beside me. In the dim light filtering through the curtains, I could see her face, composed, determined, so much older than her 15 years. Grandma, she said softly, taking my hand in hers. I know about the candles. My heart skipped a beat. What? The candles on your cake, she whispered. I know what's inside them. I found your journal in the attic last month, when Mom sent me to get the Christmas decorations early. I stared at her, understanding dawning. That's why you refused to light them. She nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. I didn't want to burn the evidence. All these years, I'd kept my contingency plan secret, the account numbers and passwords hidden inside the wax of birthday candles I made myself each year. The offshore account where I'd transferred the remaining money after Walter died. The new identities I'd prepared, just in case the past ever caught up with us. You're the only one who knows, I whispered. Time's up, Caroline called from her chair. Back to bed, kid. Lily squeezed my hand once, hard, before standing. I trust you, Grandma, she said, loud enough for Caroline to hear. Whatever happens tomorrow. As she climbed the stairs, I settled back against the couch cushions, a new calm washing over me. Lily knew. Somehow that changed everything. Morning came too quickly, the first rays of sunlight filtering through the living room curtains. I hadn't slept, had simply lain there planning, remembering, preparing myself for what was to come. Caroline roused Michael with a nudge of her foot. Time to go, she said. Get the girl. While Michael went upstairs to fetch Lily, Caroline kept the gun trained on me. No tricks today, Martha, she warned, or things will get unpleasant very quickly. I understand, I said, folding the blanket neatly and placing it on the arm of the couch. But I'd like to say goodbye to my children first. She considered this, then nodded. Make it quick. One by one, Michael unlocked the bedroom doors. My children emerged, looking haggard, their faces creased with worry and lack of sleep. Lily was the last to appear, dressed in jeans and a sweatshirt, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. Mom, Eliza began, her voice thick with tears. Please don't. It's going to be all right, I assured her, embracing her tightly. Take care of your brothers and sister. Remember what I taught you. I hugged each of my children in turn, whispering reassurances, feeling their fear and confusion like a physical weight. When I reached Lily, I held her the longest, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, feeling the steady beat of her heart against mine. I'm ready, I said finally, turning to Caroline and Michael. Let's go. The morning air was cool and crisp as we stepped outside, the dew still clinging to the grass. Michael's black sedan waited in the driveway, its windows tinted against the rising sun. Where are we going? Caroline asked as we settled into the car, Lily beside me in the back seat, Michael behind the wheel. The old Johnson property, I said. Out by Willow Creek, about 20 minutes from here. As we drove through the quiet streets of my town, I watched the familiar landmarks pass by. The church where I'd taught Sunday school for 30 years, the park where I'd pushed my children on the swings, the grocery store where the clerk still called me by name. A lifetime of memories, built on a foundation of secrets and lies, but also on love. Always on love. Turn here, I directed Michael as we reached the outskirts of town. The road narrowed, winding through dense woods until it reached a clearing where an old farmhouse stood, weathered but still standing. This is it? Caroline asked, peering through the windshield. This is it, I confirmed. Walter's family owned this land for generations. We kept it even after we built the house in town. Michael parked in front of the farmhouse and we all got out. The morning sun was higher now, burning away the mist that clung to the fields surrounding the property. Where's the money? Caroline demanded, the gun once again in her hand. I pointed toward a large oak tree that stood alone at the edge of the clearing. There, buried at the base of that tree. Show me, she ordered. With Lily close beside me, I walked toward the tree. Its massive trunk was gnarled with age, its branches spreading wide to create a canopy of leaves that rustled in the gentle breeze. We'll need a shovel, I said. There should be one in the shed behind the house. Michael went to retrieve it while Caroline kept the gun trained on us. When he returned, he handed the shovel to me. You dig, Caroline said, right where you say it's buried. I took the shovel, feeling its weight in my hands. The same shovel Walter had used 60 years ago to dig a different hole for a different purpose. Stand back, I told Lily, positioning her several feet away. I began to dig, the blade of the shovel cutting into the soft earth beneath the tree. Despite my age, my arms were still strong from years of gardening, of working this very land. The rhythm of the work was familiar, almost comforting. Deeper, Caroline urged, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. I continued digging until the hole was about 3 feet deep. Then, with a grunt of effort, I drove the shovel into the earth one final time and heard a dull thud. There, I said, stepping back. That's it. Caroline pushed forward eagerly, dropping to her knees beside the hole. Get it out, she ordered Michael. He knelt beside her, reaching into the hole to brush away the remaining dirt. His fingers closed around something solid, a metal box about the size of a shoebox, its surface corroded with age. This is it? He asked, lifting it out. I nodded. That's it. Caroline snatched the box from his hands, setting it on the ground before her. The lock was rusted, barely holding, and it took only a moment for her to break it open with the handle of the gun. Inside, nestled on a bed of decaying cloth, lay stacks of bills, old bills, their edges yellowed with age, and beneath them, gleaming in the morning light, more diamonds, larger than the ones I'd shown them in the basement. My God, Caroline breathed, her fingers hovering over the contents. It's real. It's all real. I told you, I said quietly. She looked up at me, her expression a mixture of triumph and suspicion. Why show us now, after all these years of hiding it? Because it's time, I replied. I'm tired of carrying this secret, tired of the weight of it. Michael was staring at the money, at the diamonds, his expression unreadable. Raymond's share, he murmured. After all this time. And yours, I added. Half of it belongs to you, Michael. That was the agreement, wasn't it? Between you and Raymond? He nodded slowly. Yes, that was the agreement. Caroline began stuffing the money into her pockets, her movements quick and greedy. We need to go, she said. Now. What about them? Michael asked, nodding toward Lily and me. Caroline straightened, the gun once again in her hand. We can't leave witnesses. That wasn't the plan, Michael said sharply. You promised. Plans change, she replied, her voice cold. They've seen our faces. They know who we are. I stepped in front of Lily, shielding her with my body. Let her go, I said. She's just a child. She has nothing to do with this. Caroline laughed. A child who knows too much. I'm sorry, Martha, I truly am. But this ends here. She raised the gun, aiming it directly at my chest. I stood my ground, feeling Lily trembling behind me. Michael, I said, not taking my eyes off Caroline. Remember your promise. He hesitated, looking between his wife and me. Then, with a movement so swift I barely saw it, he lunged forward, grabbing Caroline's wrist and forcing the gun upward. A shot rang out, the bullet disappearing harmlessly into the branches above. Run, he shouted to us. Now! I grabbed Lily's hand and we ran, not toward the car but toward the farmhouse. Behind us I heard a second shot, then a third. A man's cry of pain. I didn't look back. We burst through the farmhouse door, slamming it behind us. The interior was dusty, abandoned, but familiar. The same faded wallpaper, the same worn floorboards I remembered from decades ago. Grandma, Lily gasped, her face pale with shock. What do we do? I moved quickly to the old fireplace, kneeling to pry loose a brick near the hearth. Behind it was a small cavity containing exactly what I'd hidden there 12 years ago. A cell phone. Its battery separate, but preserved. Put this together, I told Lily, handing her the components. Quickly. As she assembled the phone with shaking fingers, I moved to the window, peering cautiously through the dusty glass. In the clearing, I could see two figures struggling. Michael and Caroline, fighting for control of the gun. It's working, Lily said, holding up the phone. Its screen glowed faintly in the dim interior of the farmhouse. Call this number, I said, reciting it from memory. Tell them exactly where we are. Tell them to hurry. While Lily made the call, I continued to watch the scene outside. The struggle had ended. One figure lay motionless on the ground. The other was moving toward the farmhouse, gun in hand. "They're coming," Lily said, ending the call. 10 minutes, they said. I nodded, my eyes still on the approaching figure. "We don't have 10 minutes. The footsteps on the porch were heavy, deliberate. The doorknob turned slowly. Lily and I backed away, retreating toward the kitchen at the rear of the house. The door swung open, and Michael stood there, blood streaming from a cut above his eye. The gun hung loosely at his side. "She's dead," he said simply. Relief washed over me. "You kept your promise." He nodded, stepping into the house and closing the door behind him. "I told you the girl wouldn't be harmed." "And now?" I asked. Michael looked at the phone in Lily's hand. "You've called them, haven't you? The police?" "Yes," I admitted. "They'll be here soon." He sighed, setting the gun down on a dusty side table. "I'm tired, Martha. Tired of running, of chasing ghosts. 60 years is a long time to live with hate." "I know," I said softly. He sank into an old armchair, wincing as the movement jarred whatever injuries he'd sustained in the fight. "What will you tell them? About the money? About Raymond?" I glanced at Lily, who was watching us both with wide, solemn eyes. "The truth," I said. "All of it. It's time." Michael nodded slowly. "Yes, I suppose it is." We sat in silence then, waiting for the sound of sirens in the distance. When they finally came, wailing through the morning air, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, the weight of 60 years of secrets, of lies, of a life built on a foundation that was finally being exposed to the light. As the police cars pulled into the clearing, their lights flashing against the weathered walls of the farmhouse, I took Lily's hand in mine. "I'm sorry," I told her. "For all of it." She squeezed my fingers gently. "You did what you had to do, Grandma, to protect your family." "Yes," I said, watching as officers approached the house, weapons drawn. "That's all I ever wanted, to protect my family. In the end, that's what matters most, isn't it? Not the mistakes we make, not the secrets we keep, but the love that drives us to protect those who depend on us, even when that protection comes at a terrible cost. What lesson do you see here? Tell me in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about the lengths we go to for family and the prices we pay along the way.